nobody's really talking about this in depth, but I caught this because I've been monitoring a lot of what's happening in Ukraine and Russia. And the Russians are not stupid. The Russians are really good at chess. And the Russians have been watching the patterns that are not that difficult to unravel of the US in particular and Washington, where they try to blame everything on them when it's clearly not. Every single event has been debunked essentially, but they're preparing for another false flag against Russia, and they are making the Azov battalion the victims this time. So several days ago, the Russian Defense Ministry put out this bulletin where they were saying that according to confirmed reports, the Kiev nationalist regime is preparing another provocation to accuse Russia of allegedly massacring civilians in Irpin, Kiev region. I would like to draw your attention to the fact that the units of the Russian armed forces left the town more than a week ago, and this was a few days ago now. The Security Service of Ukraine plans to bring the bodies of local residents killed by Ukrainian artillery shelling from the morgue of the town hospital on Polevaya Street to the basement of a building on the eastern outskirts of Irpin. Then a staged action with shooting and destruction of an alleged Russian reconnaissance group that arrived in Irpin to kill witnesses of Russian war crimes will be staged by the Security Service of Ukraine in Pucha-Voditsky forest area. At the same time, the bodies of the captured Russian servicemen previously killed by nationalists under torture will be presented as undeniable evidence in the forest. This cynical stage action is organized for later distribution of video footage through the Western media. So they put this out, and it was predicting what then we saw later, which is what would happen later, which is this next part where now this is what's in the mainstream media today, where they're saying Western powers look into an unverified claim of possible use of chemical agent in Mariupol. And if we recall back when Victoria Nuland and Ted Cruz were having this little interaction where they were denying the existence of, Jen Psaki had been all over Twitter denying the existence of the biomedical labs, right? And then they came in and started saying, well, they exist, but we don't want the Russians to get their hands on it. And Victoria Nuland was saying like that she was afraid of the Russians getting their hands on it. And then what happened is Ted Cruz basically prompted her and was like, well, if there's a chemical attack at all, we know it's going to be from the Russians, right? And she was like, absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, it's the Russians. So you can see that manifest, and they tell you what they're going to do. And so the Russians already knew that this was going to happen, and they were sort of prepping for it. So this is from the article, and this is the New York Times, and they said, the United States, Britain, and other Western allies, along with Ukraine's government, are examining claims that Russia deployed a chemical agent that sickened a handful of people in Moscow's unrelenting bid to gain complete control over the ruined Ukrainian city of Mariupol. Peter Andruyshchenko, an advisor to the city government, said local officials believe that some chemicals had been dropped by a drone on the city's sprawling Azov steel plant, one of the last redoubts of the Ukrainian forces defending the city. They said it was unclear whether it was intended to be lethal. He said that it might be something like tear gas, but they could not be certain. Just as right off the bat as to what I've said, Pasta, this screams Syria. Yeah. This screams what happened in Syria in 2014 with Duma, right? And
one playbook, fam. One playbook.
Yeah. And I just want to say
they can't come up with anything new.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that. But I just want to say that the people that covered Syria on the ground, like Vanessa Beeley and Eva Bartlett, can easily spot this because they were there. And it's the same exact playbook as you just said.
Fam, I don't know if you know this. I'm a newspaper guy now, right? And what's it say? Because the same playbook is written in the mainstream media papers. Once we got the RJ over here, which is the Associated Press, what do you know? President Biden calls Russia's war in Ukraine genocide. So it's the same thing, and it talks about Mariupol, whatnot. Yes, I called it genocide. They're all referring to the false flag attack that you pointed out in Bucha. So it's just the same bullshit over and over again. You don't even believe anything you see now. As soon as they say it, you're automatically calling bullshit. How long could they hold on to the lies? I'm just very curious. A lot of people who were traditionally more like lean towards the neoconservative kind of mentality that we had to be the policeman around the world. I'm wondering if all of them are saying, you know what, we got to stop being the policeman. I don't believe anything they're saying anymore. It seems like to be all about money so they can throw it all over the place. Billions of dollars going to Ukraine while we have homeless people all over the streets, a lot of them veterans. How long do you want to take this for? How long are you going to take this before you stand up and say, I'm done with your BS?
Right. And the thing is, they use, like you just said, they use the exact same accusations. They talk about chemical weapons. There's zero evidence of that. They talk. Russia pointed out the manipulation of the bodies, which has been done. We talked about the Bucha attacks. We talked about the attacks in Kramatorsk. And again, it's easy to debunk it, but at the same time, the propaganda is so intense that random people who aren't paying attention, they're like, oh, look what Russia's doing. But this is what the media continues saying. They're saying that something was dropped in the area and that it came from a drone, and that they're not sure if it was poison. And the Ukrainian military commanders in the city said that Russian forces had used a drone on Monday to deploy a poisonous substance of unknown origin. So they don't, they can just say, oh, we have intelligence that tells us X, Y, Z. We have sources that say this is a poisonous substance, but we don't know what it is. And supposedly this poisonous substance caused respiratory difficulties and neurological symptoms that can be associated with chemical agents in the handful of soldiers and civilians. Again, using this sort of, oh, they're attacking civilians. Just wait till they once again weaponize children for this. The reports, though unverified, and so they have to admit that these reports are unverified. Because they are. And they said are being treated seriously, giving the longstanding warnings by Western intelligence agencies that President Vladimir Putin of Russia might use unconventional weapons to subdue Ukrainian opposition. Having failed to seize Kiev and quickly topple the Ukrainian government, Russia has turned its focus to Ukraine's east and south, and defeating the remaining forces in Mariupol is essential in Russia's effort to gain wider control over the region. If Russia wanted to defeat Ukraine, wanted to crush and eliminate Ukraine, they would have done it within the first week. This is and they say, oh, the warnings by Western intelligence agencies. So by the same agencies that led us into this conflict, it's absolutely ridiculous how they position themselves as to having some sort of information when it's really nothing. It's just the intelligence agencies want this narrative and they want to put it out. So they say, oh, they have this and they have that. And if you look at what's actually, I don't think I even put it in here, but if you look at what's the map of Ukraine and the map of the battles going on, you see that the expansion of Russia in taking so many of these cities and control of these cities is actually what's happening. And Mariupol in particular is one of them. So they're just trying to pretty much paint a complete opposite picture as to what's actually happening. And the worst part is we have become defenders. The United States government, the military, and all these idiots with Ukrainian flags on their profiles have become defenders of Nazis. On Tuesday morning, the Azov battalion, this is how they describe them, a group that was founded as a far-right volunteer unit and is one of the main Ukrainian forces holding out in Mariupol, issued a statement and released a video on its official Telegram channel that purported to offer more details. So now the Azov battalion is just a far-right volunteer unit. It's not Nazis. It's not groups that have been found to torture and commit war crimes against Russian prisoners and civilians. Countless civilian testimonies. I've been putting them out there on the Convo Couch. You guys can see countless. There is this guy, Maxim Gagorev, who is a journalist. He's been on the ground doing a lot of interviews with civilians in Ukraine, and he's showing the testimony as to how they were treated. And it's just video after video of them saying that, this isn't true. And so the Azov battalion released a video, and I'm going to show the video. But before I show the video, they basically said that at least 3 soldiers and civilians had been affected, and that they were in relatively satisfactory condition. that the substance had been deployed close to the Ukrainian military positions, but some distance from civilian locations, and that it was impossible to investigate the scene of the crime due to enemy fire. So you see how they position themselves? Like, we don't know what this is. We're not exactly sure what type of gas it is. It's unverified. Oh, and we can't investigate the scene because there was like military fire. So it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Anything to say before I?
Well, I just want to say that what you were going over before too, as well, when we had the whole situation, we were kind of alluding to Victoria Nuland. Oh, yeah, there's going to be a gas attack. I still I can't get rid of the image of Mike Lee, I believe his name was, and Ned Price going back and forth. Okay, where are you getting this information from? I just told you about it. It's intelligence from the Pentagon that we have. Where did you get it from? Oh, well, you know what I'm saying? Where they create it. You know what I'm saying? They create the narratives. That's all it is. It's bullshit. They lie all the time. I mean, it's that other meme, fam. It's like, you know, the CIA and the Pentagon, they lie all the time, but they're telling the truth on this one. Give me a break.
Exactly. And it's I hope it's becoming more and more obvious for everybody. I know our audience knows, but some people, you know, it gets easier to spot each time, unfortunately. But so basically, the Ukrainian Deputy Defense Minister, Hanna Maliar, told the national television channel that the government was working to verify the information coming from Mariupol. The British military said earlier on Monday that Russia had used phosphorus munitions as weapons in eastern Ukraine and raised the possibility that they could be used in Mariupol. Phosphorus weapons are not considered chemical weapons, and their limited use, while controversial, is not forbidden under international law. You know why they have to say that? Because of Israel using these gases on Palestinians. So they have to say that it's not technically forbidden. So so
our allies can use them, but
yeah,
you know,
it's kind of cool when they use it, but
our adversaries now.
No, not them. So let's go ahead and play the video, and maybe you guys, it'll have subtitles in English, so you guys can see
I can translate them.
The poor members of the Azov battalion, like, being victimized.
Вчора окупанти використали проти військових та цивільних осіб Маріуполя отруйну речовину невідомого походження. Епіцентр дії речовини був віддалений від місця перебування людей, тож це посприяло їх мінімальному контакту з речовиною, що, можливо, врятувало їм життя, але є наслідки. Зараз неможливо провести аналіз і з'ясувати, якою речовиною було отруєно людей, адже перебуваємо в повній блокаді, а епіцентр ураження обстрілюється росіянами, в тому числі з метою знищення доказів свого злочину. Дещо дивує те, що маючи тисячі вбитих росіянами цивільних Маріуполі, всі заговорили про нас лише після атаки хімічною речовиною, хоча місто щоденно піддається атакам авіації, флотом, важкими вогнеметними системами, артилерією, а також фосфорними боєприпасами.
До нас надійшли постраждалі з ознаками можливого застосування хімічної зброї. Серед цих ознак були виражені гіперемія обличчя, підвищення артеріального тиску, сухість та печія в області ротоглотки, слизових ділянок очей. Враховуючи наші умови і в наших умовах, була надана постраждалим симптоматична, невідкладна медична допомога.
Ну, мы сильно не выходили, мы еле, напевы еле дошли, глянули, хотели подышать обстановку, глянуть просто. Ну, смотрим, там белым-бело по заводу вообще, белым-бело. Стало сразу плохо, шум в ушах, тахикардия, сердце и слабость, вот падаешь и все. Еле сюда вот добежал сверху, то есть там 10 метров расстояние. И вот мамка вообще отъезжала, 3 раза еле откачали. А вообще сердце останавливается, оно все, глаза закатываются и все. Мы двое были, а потом мамка стала плохо тут уже. Сквозняк, вентиляция по-любому, и тут вытяжки, вентиляция по-любому затянула легко. У всех одинаково, Слабость, температура сейчас вот в конце уже, под утро еще пошла температура. Тахикардия, шум в ушах, и давление падает, походу, или поднимается, что ты вообще ничего, ты не можешь действовать. 5 шагов прошел и падаешь сразу, все. Я там пробыл минуту-две и спустился вот сюда, вот, там, 5 метров, мне уже чувствую, шум в ушах уже пошел, понял. А сюда пришел вообще, я еле с лавки стал. Слабо за того, что ты ничего не можешь, вообще ходить не можешь. Стоял такой, как туман вообще. Откуда, что, я не... Ну, вот, по заводу, по территории, но как туман вообще. Белый такой дым, не знаю. И сладкий какой-то такой привкус какой-то, не знаю, чего это.
Нам надо эвакуировать оттуда. Мы мирные жители, и вот это такое случилось. 3 раза приступ, сознание теряла, тут еле спасли. Ногами не могу ходить.
А з здоров'ям у вас до цього все було нормально,
Но
так?
было нормально, да.
Угу.
Ми були на позиції в укритті. І чули якийсь вибух. Піднялися перевірити, що до чого. Піднялися. І я побачив такий, як туман. Більше схожий на дим. Він не густий, але такий схожий на дим. Скомандували в укриття. І коли заходили, я відчув задуху. Дуже важко було дихати. Практично не міг вдохнути. І одразу вже запаморочення в голові, ноги підкашуються. Ніби вони якісь ватні. Дали команду вдягнути протигази. І все, вдягнули протигази. Відчув себе дуже погано. Дуже погано дихати. Що воно таке, непонятно. Що воно було.
За результатами проведеного огляду можна зробити висновок, що були застосовані або отруйні, бойові отруйні речовини, або сильнодіючі отруйні речовини, переважно задушливої дії. На жаль, повну верифікацію діагноза провести не можна, оскільки ми знаходимося в повній блокаді і токсикологічний аналіз ми виконати не можемо. Саме тому пацієнтам була надана допомога з урахуванням максимального перекриття усіх можливих видів всіх речовин.
Okay, so that's a report from the members of the Azov battalion. It's not everyday Ukrainians reporting that. It is members of the Azov battalion that have a video somehow that was made. Now there are reports from Russia, the Defense Ministry of Russia, that there's a lot of creation and filming of these videos going on. Several journalists that have been there on the ground have said that there will be, right before an accusation against Russia is pushed out, there'll be film crews that show up with media. And then, that's what happened in the last one in Bucha, where film crews appeared and then all of a sudden there was like these bodies out there. So is it a possibility that during war there would be chemical agents used? Yes, but who's had the chemical agents historically here? Who has the biolabs with ties to Metabiota, which have ties to Hunter Biden and also ties to the gain of function lab research done in Wuhan? That's not a conspiracy. That is something that actually happened. And we went over some of that, but there's more and more information being released from this dump that's happening. And it's interesting how the moment we start hearing about these false flags, we start ignoring like the ties between the defense, the US Department of Defense, Hunter Biden, the Pentagon, and these biolabs, right? And people just like stop asking questions. Who's really has a history of doing this? You could go back to Syria and Duma. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we also have a history of making sure that we propagandize. We have money in the budget to make sure that's going out there. The word of mouth is better sometimes than the actual actions taking place on the ground. All right, we can't win them. Let's win the information game. Let's win the propaganda game. Let's make sure, and at the end of the day too, as well, when Scott comes on, I can't wait to ask him a few questions, because at the end of the day, I still feel sadness from all human life over there and all life period, what's going on over there. So, I mean, it's sad. It's just sad, and it's terrible, because at the end of the day, it's about colonial powers pulling the strings, not caring, fam, about either people on either side, about any of the Ukrainians. It's like that bird, the United States, go over there and get some corn, and They don't care. Ukrainians turning Ukraine into a Vietnam for Russians is bad for Russians, but it's awful for the Ukrainians, and we don't give a damn.
Right. And this is going to continue, and this is continuing. So after Russia kind of predicted that this would happen, then you saw the mainstream media stories all over the place. Now there is the new false, this is from the Russian Defense Ministry again. They're saying this is false stage provocations to accuse Russian armed forces of allegedly abusing the population of Ukraine are being prepared by the Kiev regime under the guidance of British intelligence services in now the Sumy region. Representatives of the Ukrainian and Western media have been invited to Seredina Buda town in Sumy region, which was formerly under the control of Russian troops, to conduct stage video footage. In order to conceal the provocation and prevent it from being exposed by real witnesses, a curfew has been imposed in the city, and the local population has been forcibly evicted from the places where the filming took place. So as I said before, there are reports of filming. And here in Nizhnaya Srovatka near Sumy, bodies were being dragged into one of the basements of residential buildings to be presented as allegedly another victim of the Russian army, as conceived by the British filmmaker units of the Russian troops allegedly massacred and humiliated civilians as they withdrew. Another fake will be promoted by the Western media in the very near future. Its aim is to further increase Russophobia against the backdrop of Europe's rapidly developing economic goals or economic crisis. Please note that Russian troops withdrew from this location 3 weeks ago on March 20th. Such events, if they really happened, could not have failed to become public in such a long period. Moreover, the Kiev regime is looking for any reason to accuse Russia of genocide of the Ukrainians. A whole network of foreign information psychological influences on the population is currently operating in Ukraine, producing dirty tricks on a professional basis. We will see the results of their anti-Russian activities more than once. They also talk about how Ukrainian authorities make extensive use of interested countries and nonprofit organizations. For example, the French leadership sent a group of French servicemen and the Gendarmerie to Ukraine to collect information on alleged crimes committed by Russian servicemen, together with representatives of the International Commission on Missing Persons, which was created by an initiative of the US. On April 11th, French Special Operation Forces personnel, together with tech experts from the French Gendarmerie and the Interior Ministry, arrived in Ukraine via Germany and Poland through the so-called diplomatic corridor. Given the partnership of these, quote, experts, there is no hope of an impartial investigation. Apparently, their main areas of activity will be to cover up numerous war crimes against the population of Ukraine and the Donetsk and Lugansk People's Republics committed by the Ukrainian authorities over the last 8 years, as well as fabricating accusations against the Russian armed forces. So they're saying here, like, they're not, there's this community that's supposed to look at what's the war crimes that are happening, and they haven't covered anything that happened during those 8 years. And the last part on the planned Ukrainian provocation in Irpin, which is what you just saw on the video and what the mainstream media is talking about now, according to confirmed reports, the Kiev nationalist regime is preparing another provocation to accuse Russia of allegedly massacring civilians in Irpin, Kiev region. And again, this is what they said, that they left a long time ago and that these bodies are going to be presented as more evidence, but they're not legitimate. So just wanted to give a brief synopsis of that. If you actually go and you look at what the Russian Defense Ministry is putting out there, look at what on-the-ground journalists are doing, who they're interviewing, and you look at exactly at the information as it's presented, as the evidence they have, not like, oh, we have evidence that's secretive, we have evidence that we don't know where it came from, we can't confirm nor deny, we don't know what the substance is, then you can easily find the truth. But you have to go off of mainstream media, you have to go off of Twitter, you have to go off of YouTube. I mean, you can go to Telegram, you can go to RT via Odyssey. It's very hard. Like, you have to sort of dig, but if you look at any information that's non-Western, you can find it.